but the build-up of experience is unbroken through the years. From George Stephenson's Locomotion #1 to this 3,300 horsepower giant, the biggest single-unit diesel-electric in the world. The latest in a long, long line of successful British locomotives.
Oh man, I have recently discovered the absolute joy of Yorkshire tea. And speaking of Yorkshire, while I was there recently, I was at the National Railway Museum and I managed to pick up one of Locomotion Models' exclusive Bachmann's Deltic DP1. So I guess that's what we're doing today. So grab yourself a cup of tea and let's get straight into it.
Do it for Yorkshire!
Hey guys, welcome back to Proper Chuffed. My name is Hilton and I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. But that is half the fun of it, isn't it? If you're new to the channel, I hope you enjoy this content, and if you do, please consider subscribing. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back guys. It's good to see you again. There are not a lot of ready-to-run 00 gauge DP1s available. In fact, as far as I know, this is the only one. Bachmann's DP1. Now, with Hornby's 00 DP1 on the horizon, scheduled for early next year, I thought now's a better time than ever to take a look at Bachmann's offering. This tooling is slightly older, but it seems to have stood the test of time. So today we're going to take a closer look at the Bachmann DP1 in East Coast mainline livery. Without any further delay, let's get straight into unboxing this battleship of a diesel locomotive. And no, this video is not sponsored by Yorkshire Tea, but it is bloody good. Right, so here we are with Bachmann's DP1 English Electric Deltic prototype. So this is a Locomotion Models exclusive, which means it's essentially only available through Locomotion Models. Locomotion Models are a sort of, I guess, part of the National Railway Museum, and as such they produce exclusive models based on locomotives that they have preserved at the National Railway Museum, one of them being obviously the Deltic. So Bachmann actually produced this model, but it's sold through Locomotion Models. Taking a look at the box, obviously it's got this really striking art, which is super nice, but I will say this about Bachmann. It really is time to upgrade the packaging, guys. Pretty much every other manufacturer right now is producing boxes that are very much more secure than what Bachmann offers. This is a fairly old design, I guess a little bit outdated if you will. It's essentially the same old sleeve packaging with your clamshell packaging inside. And obviously here's our DP1. But I do think that it is time for Bachmann to update this a little bit, create more cushioning with their models, especially for somebody like me who has to have something like this imported and have it shipped via, the mail and air freight. It's always a little bit disconcerting knowing that the locomotive is only protected by this simple sleeve and clamshell packaging. So just a side note, I really do think Bachmann need to update this at some point soon. So what do we have here? Now this is the Deltic DP1 in East Coast mainline livery as it was running during the time of testing. Right, so let's get this out of the box. Take a quick gander at it. Inside we have the locomotive information, how to fit the separately fitted parts, as well as the decoder itself. And we've got a nice breakdown of the locomotive itself and all the parts included. So sliding this out, we get our first little detail pack. Now I have actually fitted some details already to this model. The detail pack that's included here isn't all that detailed, to be honest with you. There's some vacuum pipe, the coupling strike plates, which I suppose would look really cool added to the locomotive, but unfortunately you can't run it then. And then obviously the coupling point itself. So a very limited detail pack. There's no extra sort of builder's plates that you can add to it. It is quite simple for what you get. I've also just taken the liberty to insert the DCC decoder myself. So this is the blanking plate. Inside the box, we have this rather striking locomotive. As you can see in this East Coast mainline livery, it does come in two versions, the East Coast mainline livery and then the as preserved, and it was a slightly different shade of blue. To be honest with you, while I was standing in front of the two of them at the National Railway Museum, I didn't know which one to choose, and I turned to Annie and I said which one, and she chose this. So we've got the East Coast mainline livery as it is, which I think actually suits everything a little bit better. It's nicer to have it in its original colors, but as you can see, highly detailed. There's some really nice detail going on here. The livery application is absolutely exquisite, as well as all the separately fitted parts, including the horns, windscreen wipers, numerous detail on the bogie section, but I think what we should do is probably take a look at this in closer detail. So without further ado, let's dive straight into it, get a little bit of history on the DP1 and take a closer look at this rather pricey model. The English Electric Deltic DP1, often referred to simply as the Deltic, was a pioneering diesel-electric locomotive developed in the 1950s by English Electric. It played a crucial role in the transition from steam to diesel power on British railways and influenced the design of later successful diesel locomotives, notably the Class 55 Deltic series. The DP1 was the result of an ambitious project initiated by English Electric, one of the leading manufacturers of electrical equipment and diesel engines in the UK. The company's goal was to create a powerful diesel-electric locomotive capable of replacing steam engines on Britain's mainline railways, particularly on high-speed, long-distance passenger routes. The project had its roots in World War II, during which the Napier Deltic engine was developed. The Deltic engine, named after its triangular delta-shaped configuration, was originally designed for fast naval vessels. Its unique design allowed for high power-to-weight ratio, making it suitable for both marine and railway applications. After the war, Napier and English Electric collaborated to adapt the Deltic engine for use in a locomotive. By the early 1950s, British Railways was keen to explore alternatives to steam. English Electric proposed a prototype locomotive powered by two Deltic engines, offering a high power output and reliability, producing an impressive 3,300 horsepower. The prototype, known as DP1, was completed in 1955. The design of the locomotive was revolutionary, particularly the compact and lightweight Deltic engines, which allowed for high power-to-weight ratio and was capable of speeds up to 105 or 170 kilometers an hour. The locomotive's sleek, streamlined body was painted in an attractive blue and cream livery, making it visually distinctive from other locomotives of that time. The DP1 made its public debut in 1955 at the British Railways Testing and Development Centre at Rugby. It was also displayed at the International Railway Congress in 1957, where it garnered attention as one of the most advanced diesel locomotives of its era. Following this, the DP1 underwent extensive trials on the LMS and Eastern Region main lines. It was tested on high-speed passenger services, including the famous Flying Scotsman route between London and Edinburgh. During these trials, the Deltic demonstrated its ability to handle passenger services with ease, achieving high speeds and maintaining excellent timekeeping. The locomotive also showed impressive fuel efficiency compared to steam engines, which was a critical factor for British Railways as they sought to modernize their fleet. The success of the DP1 in trials led to the development of the British Class 55 Deltics, which became some of the most iconic diesel locomotives in Britain. Between 1961 and 1962, English Electric built 22 of these Class 55 locomotives, which were powered by twin Deltic engines like the DP1, but with some design refinements based on the prototype's operational experience. After its testing and the successful introduction of the Class 55 fleet, the DP1 was retired from service in 1961. Rather than being scrapped, the prototype was preserved and is now part of the collection at the National Railway Museum, although it has been moved to Shildon more recently, where it's displayed as a significant part of Britain's railway heritage. The DP1 remains a symbol of the transition from steam to diesel traction and an example of innovative British engineering. The success of the Deltic engine design in railway applications also had a broader impact, influencing locomotive design in both the UK and abroad. Bachmann's DP1 is a rather imposing beast. Its tooling, which I believe dates back to about 2008, as far as I understand anyways, is a little long in the tooth at this point, but nonetheless it's an impressive piece of kit. One of the standout features is the accuracy in replicating the DP1's distinctive shape and bodywork. At the time, Bachmann used laser scanning technology on the preserved DP1 at the National Railway Museum, ensuring that every curve and surface detail is faithfully represented. And it feels like Bachmann has nailed the sleek, streamlined body of the prototype. Particularly the bulldog nose front end, which was a significant design element in the original locomotive, reminiscent of American locomotives. The flush glazing on the windows is also a notable detail, creating a smooth, uninterrupted look across the bodywork, true to the design of the real locomotive. I'm equally impressed by the number of separately fitted parts on this model, with the horns, windscreen wipers, cab handrails, and a few details on the bogies all tapped on to carry it over the line. Given the age, I was genuinely surprised to see that the fans are recessed under the grills on the roof. And while these don't move, there is a great amount of detail here. Dotted along the length of the locomotive's roof are numerous panels and riveted parts, which look suitably to scale too. The DP1 is available in its classic powder blue livery from its East Coast mainline days, which matches the original scheme applied to the prototype in the 1950s. Alternatively, you can pick this up in an as-preserved livery. The paint finish is crisp and evenly applied with sharp lines where different colors meet along the length of the body, and the iconic Deltic nameplate is perfectly replicated. More impressive are the tiny printed details, including the builder's plate, English electric badge, and various gauges and warnings along the frame. The body of the model is plastic and feels fairly durable. The underframe and bogies are well detailed with individual components like air tanks, pipes, and springs modeled to a very high standard. The buffers are sprung, but who cares, honestly? Both wheel sets are powered and driving wheels are mounted inside metal bogies, which in turn form part of the metal body, giving it a serious bit of weight. As far as I understand, originally this model came with an 8-pin DCC socket, but newer versions feature a 21-pin socket, and it comes in both DCC ready and sound fitted variants. The DCC version setting you back a cool £199, and the sound fitted a whopping £299. This is no doubt an impressive piece of kit, and while it's certainly visually captivating, let's find out how mechanically robust it is. See you on the line. So here we are on track with Bachmann's DP1 Deltic, and as you can see, we are now on the new Dunroman version 2. We've essentially laid down the first and outermost line, and unfortunately I won't be able to test this as thoroughly as I had previously been able to, simply because I don't have all the track down and all the point work necessary and installed. So it's going to be a rather simple battery of tests we put it to today. I've not yet run this locomotive, but I have inserted an HM7000 decoder into the 21-pin socket inside the body, and I'm ready to test this out, so let's see how it does. So powering it on, good to see that the lights are working, and I'm just going to increase the power to step 1 just to see how it crawls. Bear in mind, I have not run this locomotive in yet, so this is really a first test. It really comes as no surprise to me that it has such a fantastic crawl. Bachmann diesels continue to impress me. They almost never have any problems, and as you can see here with the simple crawl, it's absolutely smooth and flawless. Now, I did consider putting a speaker into this unit, however, it seems that Hornby's sort of stock standard HM7000's housings just won't fit inside this locomotive, so if you are looking to sound fit yours, perhaps look at an ESU option. So we're going to put her under a bit of power and let her run around Dunroman version 2 now and see how she does. As we start climbing up, this is a 1% incline as opposed to my previous test incline, which was about 2 to 3%. So a lot more manageable for most locomotives, but still a test. The DP1 covering that 1% with absolute ease, no wheel slip whatsoever to report here. Let's move towards our Highland chicane and see how she handles that. There's a good amount of rotation here in the bogies, and she has absolutely no issues with these whatsoever. While we rotate around, I feel I should note that the new Dunroman version 2 on the outer main line is all 4th radius curves. We have nothing less than 4th on this line, and I think it just looks visually so much more realistic having 4th radius as opposed to 3rd. Many of you guys pointed out that I should try and avoid 3rd or 2nd where possible, and I've done just that. Later on, I'll be adding a 3rd radius inside the mountain, so I'll still be able to test just how locomotives handle those, but I won't be going as low as 2nd. So I'm going to hook up the DP1 to some coaches and see how she handles them. We've got 6 Hornby and Bachmann coaches here. Please have mercy on me when it comes to rolling stock. I really don't know too much about coaches and this sort of order of things, and I promise I'll get better at that, but as it stands, this is what I have, and I'm just sort of linking them all up and letting them run. But I endeavor to learn my formations a little bit better in future. I'm going to add 2 more coaches to this just to see how she handles a rake of 8, and no issues whatsoever. And what's fantastic about this line now is I can actually put her up to speed by about 75%, and she really thumps around the Highlands with absolute ease. The sheer racket in this room right now is quite deafening, but rather enjoyable. So the DP1 is not struggling to pull any coaches, and I'm not surprised at all. This is a Bachmann model after all, and they are unusually strong almost always. So I'm suitably impressed with this. I would have loved to have grabbed a sound-fitted version of this, but I feel like it was just pushing it a little bit over the mark for me. So here we are with our silent DP1, despite the amount of noise that she's making as she moves around the West Highlands here. Without a doubt, there are absolute merits to this model. The amount of detail included on it, given that it's a relatively old tooling, is rather impressive. I do feel like the price point is a little bit too high, even for the DCC ready version, but that's kind of Bachmann's sort of standard price range in many ways. At £300 for a sound-fitted version, I would rather hold out for the Hornby 001, to be honest with you. But your choices are limited, and if you are in a rush to get a Deltic, this is pretty much your only option, so I guess grab it. However, I am super curious to see exactly what Hornby bring to the table next year with their 00 Deltic. A full metal body equipped with the new sound profile, that's something to get pretty excited about, I must say. So I will certainly be picking up one of those in the future and then compare the two and see how they stack up against each other. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, please drop me a thumbs up, that would be a great help, and if you haven't subscribed, well, what are you waiting for? As you can see, things are not quite set in stone yet as to my layout. I'm not able to test with the serious battery that I was previously able to, but hopefully once the layout gets a little bit more underway, we'll be able to conduct a lot more testing on new locomotives and see how they do. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate your time. Until I see you next time, keep your engines fired and stay on track. All the best.